Hi, I'm Holly, and with my sister Heather, you're listening to Haunted Family Podcast, a weekly podcast about the paranormal, unsolved mysteries, and even some true crime.
And I'm back.
You are back, yes. Although it was nice having Abby with me last week.
I think she enjoys helping us record things.
She does. I think she was a little freaked out by BTK, and I think that it kind of hit home all of my paranoia. So, terrifying my children, one of the perks to having the podcast.
Yeah, totally. I don't think this is a particularly scary episode.
No, it's very fascinating though. I don't have, this is the first time in forever, I don't have a sidebar, anything to add.
I don't really either. That's weird. So let's just jump right in. Tonight's episode is about the movie The Rock.
With,
Sean Connery.
God, he is so hot for an old man.
And Nicolas Cage.
Okay, so maybe I do have a sidebar. So my ex-husband, the girl's dad, is adopted. And for the longest time we used to say that Nicolas Cage was his dad because they both had the same hairline. But obviously Nicolas Cage is not his dad because we know who his dad is.
And tonight's episode is not actually about the movie The Rock.
But it might as well be.
Yeah. Tonight's episode is about probably one of the most famous federal prisons in the history of ever.
And that is The Rock.
Yes. We are talking about Alcatraz Island, or as it was formerly known as Alcatraz Federal Prison, or United States Penitentiary, Alcatraz Island. That's a mouthful.
That is. And one of these days I will get there and I will visit.
Yeah, that's one of the few prisons that I actually want to visit. And you notice the second name I gave it was United States Penitentiary, Alcatraz Island. There are different levels in the federal prison system, and they have different names. United States Penitentiary is high-level security. They also have what is called Federal Correctional Institutions, or FCIs, and that is medium security. And then they have Federal Prison Camps, or FPCs, which is where Martha Stewart went.
Okay, I did not know any of these.
Yeah, she went to FPC Alderson in West Virginia.
Huh.
I know that they have a few levels above, different levels outside of those three main ones. They have FCCs, Federal Correctional Complexes, which they house many different level offenders in one building.
That's like the one in West Liberty, right?
West Liberty is a state prison.
Oh, I always get that confused. So that's like the one in Sandy Hook?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The prison there?
Oh, no. The one that is in Martin County is a USP. It is a maximum security institution.
No, I was saying the one that's in Elliott County. Isn't there one in Elliott County? I
think that's a state one too, Ellie.
Oh. See, I almost applied for a job there. Once upon a time, they were looking for somebody to teach English.
Kentucky has 2 federal prisons. We have USP Big Sandy, and then we have FCI Ashland.
Oh, both of them are in eastern Kentucky.
Yes. FCIs are, I didn't mention that, is low security, Federal Correctional Institution. I accidentally found that one going to an estate sale. It took me I've been to Ashland. I go to Ashland sometimes once a month or more.
I go sometimes once a week.
And, I knew that there was a federal prison somewhere in the Ashland area, but I was going to an estate sale way back in, the countryside of Ashland and stumbled across it. There's also a what they call administrative facilities, or ADXs. And they are special purpose prisons. They have some that just hold prisoners that are awaiting trial. They have some that are medical facilities, and then they have a federal prison in Colorado. It's Colorado.
That's cool.
Yes. ADX Florence. It is the federal supermax prison, and actually, I would like to do an episode eventually, just on some of the people that have been housed at ADX Florence.
Well, that's cool. One of these days, I'd like to do a ghost tour of that prison in West Virginia. Okay, so what happened?
Well, before we get into the meat and bones of it, I think most of our listeners are probably like, hey, tell us some of the cool people some of the famous people who were housed on the Rock.
Is that what they're thinking?
Probably. I mean, it's a federal prison that has really been a prison since the 1860s. It originally started out, it was a multi-purpose island. It is the oldest lighthouse on the West Coast. And at the same time they developed the lighthouse, they built a military installation and a military prison there.
Cool.
So, it has been a prison since the 1860s, in one form or another. It is located about 1.25 miles from the coast of San Francisco.
Right, which that's going to be kind of important once we get into the details.
But they housed some semi-famous people there. Al Capone was an inmate there for a while.
There's that Birdman.
Birdman was not the rapper, hip-hop guy, whatever. Actual Birdman. Machine Gun Kelly was an inmate there for a while. Ma Barker, one of her sons, was an inmate there for a while.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, and probably 3 of the more famous people there was Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin. And I'm sure most of our listeners are like, who? Why would you consider those dudes famous?
Well, they were pretty crafty.
They were.
And that Clarence Anglin, I'm not joking, like his picture kind of made me swoon a little.
Really? I think Frank Morris was the more attractive one there.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, Frank Morris kind of looks like every stereotypical movie mob.
He
not
does.
Boss, but like mob flunky kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like he looks like he's like a hitman or something.
Frank Morris was really convicted of more...
Super smart.
Yeah, he had an IQ of 133, which is pretty decent. Had his first conviction at the age of 13.
Man, it sounds like people in our family.
Yeah, well, he was orphaned at 11 and tossed around the foster care system for a while.
So he pretty much did what he had to do to survive.
He escaped from a state prison in Louisiana, and then was recaptured a year later while committing another crime. So he was sent to Alcatraz, and he became inmate AZ-1441.
And while there, he met
the Anglin brothers.
John William Anglin and Clarence Anglin, which I think it's funny that like the brothers
don't look really
one
alike.
is in Alcatraz together, 2 they don't really look anything alike, and 3 they were housed close enough together. Like seems like something that we would do.
Yeah, well, there's actually inmates in prison system today, brothers or fathers and sons, and they're allowed to stay in the same room.
That's weird.
Yeah, they are housed together. The Menendez brothers were recently moved to the same prison and put in. I don't think they are allowed to live together, but they are allowed to socialize inside the prison now. For the first time in 30 years? However long it's been since they killed their parents?
Yeah, I don't think it's been 30 years.
It feels like it.
I think they're near my age.
Oh, well. Okay.
Clarence and John their sentences were for bank robbery. They were actually convicted with their other brother, Alfred, but Alfred wasn't in Alcatraz with them. So they first met Morris in Atlanta. And then eventually they also tried to escape a couple times, and then they sent them to Alcatraz. Because Alcatraz, if you were a known escapee, that's where you went, because supposedly Alcatraz is escape proof.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Titanic was sink proof.
Well, the water is cold.
Yes. Like my heart.
Yes. There are also sharks in the water. Leopard sharks and brown sharks. And a few years ago, a couple swimmers who were preparing for a triathlon in the waters around Alcatraz Island actually saw a great white.
That would terrify me.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why I don't do triathlons. I do not have nerves of
running and biking.
I do not have nerves of steel. I do not like swimming in cold water. Oh yeah, I'm not athletic at all.
No. You would wreck the bike. You would run a couple steps and then give up. I mean, you could swim.
I could.
So that's about the only thing that... I couldn't bike either. Last time I rode a bike, I wrecked. And I was laying in the road hoping that somebody would run over me because I was super embarrassed that I wrecked a bike as an adult.
She broke her favorite watch.
I did. Oh my God. Not to age myself or anything, but it was a Guess watch with a cute leather band, and I loved it so very much, and it broke. Okay, so then they were plotting an escape with Alan West. And supposedly Alan came up with the plan, but considering that Alan didn't follow through with the plan, I'm going to say that Alan just wants some recognition. He
said that the grill on his vent in his room wouldn't come off. Likely excuse. I think he got scared, wussed out.
Yeah, he's a wussy cat.
Totally wussy cat.
So this escape plan was extremely complex.
Yes. It started with them molding replicas of their heads out.
Oh, and they didn't just stop there. They got hair from the barber shop.
Yes. I mean, you can see pictures of this online. They really made detailed replicas of their faces out of just soap and anything that they could carve down and mold. They did.
They made life preservers and rafts out of raincoats.
Yeah, they they took over 50 raincoats and made them into a life preservers and a 6 by 14 foot boat. They sealed the seams by heating them up against steam pipes.
I mean, they literally thought of everything.
They stole a concertina, which is like a miniature accordion type thing, from another inmate, and used that as bellows to help inflate their raft so they wouldn't have to, try to blow all that air into the boat.
Yeah. And then, like we said, they dug out the vents in their room so they could crawl through, and on the other side of the vent was a hallway. So they were able to escape onto the roof from there. And they would work from like 5:30 in the afternoon until 9 o'clock at night, just before lights were out. And they would do this every night.
Yeah. So the dummy heads worked. The men left on June 11th, 1962 in the evening, and they were not detected as missing until the following morning, because every time the guard had walked by, they saw bodies in the bed. They saw a head sticking on the pillow.
Hair.
Yes. And at that time, a really massive search commenced. The Coast Guard had one of their cutters in the water looking for them. They searched nearby islands. Yeah,
because the original plan was that they were going to take their rafts and then they were going to make their way to Angel Island,
which is about actually I didn't write down how far that it was from Alcatraz.
Oh, I didn't either. But then they were going to rest and then go to San Francisco Bay,
because a mile and a quarter is a pretty far way to row in the water around Alcatraz. It's not smooth sailing waters.
Right. So they were going to enter the bay on the opposite side of the island and then swim through the waterway and then steal a car, burglarize a store so they would have clothes, and then they were each just going to separate from there.
On June 4th, June 14th, the first sign of the escapees was spotted. Coast Guard cutter picked up a paddle about 200 yards off the shore of Angel Island. Later that day, somebody else found a wallet wrapped in plastic that contained the names, addresses, and photos of the Anglin brothers' friends and relatives. And then on June 21st, shredded raincoat material that law enforcement believed was part of the raft was found on Angel Island. But to this day, no human remains and no physical evidence of the men themselves have ever been found.
Yeah, so
and that was pretty much the premise of the movie The Rock, that everyone thought this guy died escaping, and really he just lived a nice semi-normal life until he was needed to get back on the island. But we don't know if these guys actually made it to shore or not. So,
right. So the FBI spent a lot of years looking into it, and they concluded that the plan failed. But they weren't willing to close the case. So, I mean, I don't know. So, but there's been no report of them reaching out to any friends or family, and
yeah, if they did manage to get off the island alive and made it to shore, they did a very good job of covering their tracks once they reached land again.
Well, my thought is they went above and beyond anything you could imagine to get off the island, that I can only imagine that if they made it to shore, that they were not going to get caught again.
And honestly, I can't think that I wouldn't be the same way.
Right. So, about the same time that these men escaped, a man named Seymour Webb, relationship at... What?
Sorry, just the name Seymour Webb.
His relationship had just ended and he was really depressed, parked his car on the Golden Gate Bridge and jumped to his death. Now,
a lot of people do that.
Right, but there were a lot of people who saw him do this, so the Coast Guard was able to get to him fairly quickly and they never found his body. So the people who are on team they didn't make it says that just because you didn't find a body doesn't mean anything, because we didn't find Seymour Webb's either. However, there was a boat several weeks later that saw a body floating, but they didn't report it until it was too late to go back and look for the body. So we don't know. That could have been Seymour Webb's body.
Yeah.
Or it could have been one of the three.
The FBI investigated this actively for 17 years, and they officially closed the file on December 31st, 1979. And their official findings was that the prisoners most likely drowned in the cold waters of the bay while attempting to reach Angel Island. The U.S. Marshal Service, however, still has this case active and open.
Oh, yeah, it was them that have it up. I said the FBI, but yeah.
Sorry. Well, no, this is as of, I think the last actual active report that the Marshal Service gave was in like 2010. And it was still open at that time. But there was no reports of car thefts or anything like that you would expect to find in an area that three guys just escaped from a prison. So if they fled when they reached land, they fled on foot, or they had a car waiting for them.
Well, the very smart thing would be to do, if you didn't already have a car waiting for you to take you somewhere far enough away for you to steal one, is to go on foot just far enough out of the area that they're going to be looking for you.
In 2011, a man named Bud Morris, who at the time was 89 or 90, came forward and claimed that he was Frank Morris's cousin. And he said that on several occasions prior to the escape, he delivered envelopes full of cash to Alcatraz guards.
Oh, this isn't good for Alcatraz guards.
No. And he also claims that he met his cousin face to face in San Diego shortly after the escape. His daughter says that she was there at the time and was just introduced to the man as her dad's friend Frank. But she was a child at the time too, and she didn't know anything about the escape or that her dad had a cousin named Frank who was in prison or anything like that.
Yeah, the Anglins, though, they said that the family had often talked about the escape, but they said that no brother had ever contacted them. And then the third brother, Alfred, that was arrested and was in Alabama, he actually was electrocuted trying to escape in 1964.
In 2013, a letter was sent to the San Francisco Police Department that read, "My name is John Anglin, and I escaped from Alcatraz June 1962 with my brother Clarence and Frank Morris. I am 83 years old and in bad shape. I have cancer. We made it all that night. but just barely. And the letter goes on to say that Clarence died in 2011, and Frank died in 2008, and just things like that.
Right, and the FBI said that they checked it out, and
it was inconclusive.
They couldn't say for sure that it was one of the Anglins.
Yeah. So I mean, it is entirely possible that these men did reach shore.
Right.
In the grand scheme of things, 1.25 miles is not that far to swim.
Nope. Although, I mean, I was a swimmer, and I wouldn't want to do it I wouldn't want to do it in cold water because you're going to cramp like a mother, but I also wouldn't want to do it unless, one, I've stretched really good, and two, I've trained for it. So, all in all, I would not want to attempt escaping from Alcatraz. So, there have been other attempts. 36 different inmates have attempted 14 escapes over 29 years. 23 of them were recaptured, 6 were shot and killed, 2 drowned, and 5, including Morris and the Anglins, are listed as missing and presumed drowned. So, one inmate, John Paul Scott, swam 2.7 nautical miles from the island to Fort Point at the southern end of the Golden Gate Bridge on December 16th, 1962. There were some teenagers on the beach, and they found him and called the police because they thought he was dead.
If I swam that long, I'd probably be almost dead too.
Truth. When the police saw him, of course, they identified him and arrested him and took him back to the rock. He was extremely exhausted and had hypothermia. I don't know that I could swim that.
Yeah. The water temperature on the night that the Anglins escaped was 54 degrees. It's the water temperature.
Yeah, so seriously cold.
It's not been long ago that, I think 2013, that a guy actually died in the water portion of the Alcatraz triathlon.
Really?
Yes. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah. The race is held in June, and the water temperature the day that this competitor drowned was 51 degrees.
Sheesh.
It is it is actually a longer race than what the Anglins would have had to do to get off the island. It is a 1.5-mile swim, and then an 18-mile bike ride and 8-mile run.
Nope, that's about all of that too much. But I trust Mythbusters, and in 2003 they tested this and they deemed it possible.
Yeah, I mean, I have always thought that it was very possible that they could have made it off the island successfully.
Right. And in 2011, the National Geographic Channel did a special, and they said that there was actually footprints found on Angel Island where the raft wreckage was recovered.
Well, I mean, think about it. There was 400 yards away off the shore where they started finding debris. It is entirely possible that they made it to Angel Island, turned their boats loose, and got another way into San Francisco.
Right. I know, that's what I'm thinking. And leaving the rafts and even some of their personal belongings was a good way to
get the scent off of them. Yes.
Right. Anyway, the National Geographic Channel also said that contrary to what the FBI was reporting, a car had been stolen in the vicinity on the night of the escape.
Well, it would not be the first time that the FBI screwed up. That's a recurring theme.
I can't imagine that's a
recurring theme in our podcast of law enforcement dropping the ball.
Yeah, well, I can't imagine that in a city like San Francisco, there was no cars stolen that night.
I know. I mean, I know it was like...
Hell, there's probably cars stolen every night in Moorhead.
I'm sure there's a car stolen every night in my area, and I live in Podunkville. Well, you know that Native Americans actually claimed that Alcatraz Island was haunted by evil spirits. Long before it even became the military
who goes there. I was going to say, I think everybody who goes there thinks that it's haunted. So why does Native Americans think that?
My guess is because it's a creepy island in the middle of, the bay.
Well, that doesn't make it haunted. Oh, I don't know. Speaking of haunted, though, I met the guy that bought the house beside me. And he has no plans on living there. He's going to rent it out. And so everybody who rents the house beside me, I'm going to tell them somebody died in it.
And that it's haunted.
Which, I mean, neither of those is a lie. And if you guys can get live photos, I will happily send you a live photo of, the ghost next door.
Yeah, there's actually a whole Wikipedia page just on legends and ghost stories of Alcatraz.
Oh, we should write that down.
Alcatraz Island, actually, I mean, in most every spot in the United States, was once Native American land.
Right.
Yeah. So, on November 20th, 1969, this is just a few years after USP Alcatraz closed as a federal prison. It closed permanently on March 21st, 1963. A group of Native American activists from all tribes declared that under the terms of the Treaty of Fort Laramie, Alcatraz Island was theirs, and they seized possession of it. In a sense, the Treaty of Fort Laramie says that is a treaty between the United States government and the Lakota that says that all retired, abandoned, and out-of-use federal land would be returned to the native people who once occupied it. And there's what people call the occupation of Alcatraz lasted from November 20th, 1969 to June 11th, 1971. And there it is, June 11th again. June 11th just keeps popping up all over stories of Alcatraz. Do you know what I think would be hard for me as a prison guard at Alcatraz? The fact that you live there on the island with them.
No, that would suck.
Yeah. They would have, there was the gate around the actual prison and then houses for the staff to live in and playgrounds for their children to play on. You lived and worked on the same island.
Kind of like Waverly Hills.
Yeah. Now, a few Kentucky prisons actually used to have dormitories for inmates. KSR in LaGrange used to have I don't know if they still do. Used to have dormitories for guards to stay in. But it would just be weird to live and work in the same place, especially when your work is dealing with criminals.
We should ask our cousin Eric if he would like to live with his inmates.
I think that would be a big old no.
So, what do you think happened?
I think the ghost ate them. No, in reality, I believe, and I've always believed, that they made it off the island. They successfully made it to shore, and they just hid out.
Yeah, that's my thought, because we're talking about people who were, one, um, used to escaping various places. We're talking about people who are extremely smart and had a very well thought out, extremely detailed escape plan.
Yeah,
and
this wasn't just a they saw an opportunity and they took it, like all the guys who escaped from the jail in Ashland, Kentucky.
Yeah, this was very well thought out. I would say that their escape plan did not stop with
making it to shore.
We get right. Like, I am sure that they had a plan for what would happen once they got to the mainland. And I'm sorry, but I just cannot believe that in all of San Francisco a car was not stolen that night.
Well, I mean, and maybe as you said, National Geographic proved the FBI wrong on that.
Right. And National Geographic said that there was footprints on Angel Island. So that's my take, is that yes, they probably made it. I mean, I'm going to say that they're all dead of old age now. But I'm going to say that they made it off and then went somewhere far away and
lived their life.
Probably robbed a bank or something and then just laid low and lived off that money.
Yeah. But everyone is always, told this was an impossible thing. No way they could have done this. Well, I mean, if hundreds of triathletes every year can swim 1.5 miles in the Alcatraz water in June, and then ride their bicycle 18 miles, and then run 8 miles, I think it is, then why couldn't these men shimmy out their vent into a hallway, get in a raft that they have constructed very well, paddle to an island, and then swim to San Francisco? I think it's totally possible. And the fact that they did it under the cover of night, piece of cake. Well, I mean, they were still, it wasn't super easy. They probably did not feel like going out for tea and crumpets when they reached the shore, but it wasn't an insurmountable, they'll die when they reach the shore from exhaustion type of feat. It's just a mile and it's just 1.25 miles.
Right. And I mean, like, you can't do it in a meet or anything, but I mean, there are swimming tricks for when you're seriously exhausted to make it, to rest for a little bit without drowning, and so that you can keep going.
They had a big desire to reach the other side.
Right.
They had incentive behind them.
Anyway, I thought this episode was really cool.
This was one that I enjoyed researching this, and I enjoyed, toying with this in my mind over the past week or so. Did they make it? Is this possible?
Well, I got an idea. This is what we'll do. We will go on a trip to Alcatraz, and then you and I will just jump in the water and swim back to the bay.
How about no?
Fine. Take the fun out of everything.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking, then we'll have to go back to our hotel and change and dry our hair, and we'll miss out, on the rest of the day. Just trying to get ready for...
Or we just go around wet and it'll dry. It's California. Do we have a stupid criminal?
So, Holly, do you carry a purse anymore?
I carry a non-West wristlet.
Well, see, I carry a purse on most days.
I mean, sometimes I do. Like, it depends. Like, if I'm going to a work meeting and I don't need to actually carry a bag, I'll carry a purse. Or if I am going to, like, one of the events of the girls or something, I will carry a purse. I can stick a water bottle in it.
Because snacks are important.
Yes.
Well, have you ever found weird things in your purse?
Always.
What's the weirdest thing you say you found in your purse?
I find weird things in my wristlet, too.
What's the weirdest thing you found in your purse?
Weirdest thing that I have found in my purse? Oh gosh, I'm not even for sure.
You know, like, occasionally my dog will, like, put a dog toy in my purse or something. Or
Yeah.
I have found hay in my purse.
I
have a farm.
When I was teaching Head Start, I found rocks in my purse, dandelions. There was a drumstick in my purse once. Like, not drumstick that you eat, but like drumstick that you play drums with.
Have you ever found cocaine in your purse?
No, I have never found cocaine in my purse. I honestly probably wouldn't even know what cocaine looked like if I saw it.
Yeah, me either. Well, 26-year-old Canisia Posey, and I'm sorry, Miss Posey, if I've mispronounced your first name. I'm not good with names.
Anybody who listens to this podcast knows that we're not good with names.
Well,
or locations.
She tested positive for Florida.
She tested positive for Florida?
Well, she's from Fort Pierce, Florida. And we seem to have a high number of stupid criminals from Florida. So I'm going to start calling it testing positive for Florida.
We love you, Florida.
She was pulled over for swerving in her car. Okay. And the police officer smelled the strong aroma of marijuana.
Okay.
So he searched her car and her bags. And while going through her purse, he found marijuana and cocaine. And Miss Posey said that the marijuana was hers. But I don't know nothing about any cocaine. It must have flown in there through the window and into my purse. So, Miss Posey was charged with felony possession of cocaine and a misdemeanor count of possession of marijuana because the wind blew some cocaine into her purse.
Okay. I mean, it's possible.
Anything's possible. If those three men can escape from Alcatraz, then cocaine can blow in Miss Posey's purse from the wind.
That is true.
But I'm thinking it's highly unlikely, and she probably really just did have cocaine in her purse.
I'm sure of that.
So I'm sorry, Miss Posey, you are our stupid criminal of the week. But worry not, because you did give me much joy and laughter when I read that you said that the cocaine blew in your purse from the window. Thank you.
I mean, it's totally possible.
I needed some levity in my life.
Oh, actually, I do have a sidebar note. See, I have been telling people to go visit my Etsy shop, Cat Hair Glitter. But I have to tell them something. I was finally able to do dye sublimation tonight. So I can do full color shirts. Well, as long as the shirt is white and gray. And the color I'm putting on it is not white. I can do that now, and it's awesome, and I'm like totally addicted to it.
I think you need to make shirts for the Derby.
I will, although the Derby is like in a couple weeks.
But you have to say, my idea for the Derby shirt was amazing.
It was, and I will give you credit.
Okay.
And also, if you want to start a podcast of your own and you want to use our affiliate code Haunted Family PB, we totally recommend
Podbean. It's awesome.
It is, and they changed their analytics just a little bit, and did not think that it was possible to get better, but they did.
And I mean, we've had a really good month with Podbean. I think, what is it? We're up almost 50% of listenership this month.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you for sharing us with your friends. Thank you for talking about us on social media. We appreciate that so stinking much.
We do. Like, you sharing us with your friends, like, makes us so happy.
When you message us, or we see a comment where someone is recommending our podcast, it makes us giddy. So thank you for making this month one of our best months since we started podcasting.
Well, anyway, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.